Welcome back to the NFA Review channel, everyone. It's 2021, first video of the year. Thank God 2020 is parked firmly in our rear view. We're only looking forward from here on out. So I'm really excited to bring this to you guys for our first review on the channel for the new year. So this is the new Microtech R2K9. Yes, they don't just make knives anymore. So my love affair with Microtech started pretty recently. A lot of you guys have, I'm sure, had their out the front automatic knives for quite some time. I was always a Benchmade infidel guy because I didn't know any better. I had some problems with my Benchmade knives, and then I went out and purchased a Microtech Ultratech and fell in love with it. Way better built, more precise, felt better, fired stronger. Now I'm up to like 6 or 7 of them, so I can't stop buying them. So I was pretty excited when I heard that Microtech branched out and built a sister company, Microtech Defense Industries, or we can shorten it up, MDI. So that branch of Microtech is bringing us suppressors now. This one in particular has been in development for over 3 years and has something like 9 patents or something ridiculous like that. So they definitely took their time, did their homework. I talked to them about it and they said they didn't just want to be another company, you know, like a knife company developing a suppressor that they just kind of rushed to market just to join the cool kids club and make another suppressor. They want it to be an actual system that the military could use and that they could also sell to the commercial market, which is what you and I are interested in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open this BA case that it comes with. Has little quick release tabs here. Pull on those and you'll see them come off. And let's take a look at the new R2K9. Okay, now that's pretty sweet, but before you get carried away, I really want to drive this point home to you guys. You're buying a system or a whole kit here, okay? So you're not just buying, you know, the suppressor itself in a box. You're buying a whole system to enable you to adapt this to a multitude of hosts and set up the suppressor in different configurations, which is pretty cool. There's actually 2 layers of stuff here, so let's go ahead and break that down. So first, we have the suppressor itself. It is already set up in the K configuration in the case. You have a front module. As you can see, the baffles don't fall out. More on that in a second. You have a fixed barrel spacer. And you have a 13 by 5 by 1 left-hand piston with a piston spring. Okay, that's gonna be for your like SIGs and HK hosts. And then inside the suppressor itself, you have a 1/2 by 28 right-hand thread pistons for your other guns, you know, Glock, stuff like that. So that's your top layer. Then underneath, you have a very, very well-written manual. And I know it's well-written because this thing looked so daunting when I first opened it. This is like one of the first suppressors that I've actually sat here and read the manual front to cover twice and played with the can for like 2 hours in the kitchen at the table before I even came in here to start this in the studio, because I wanted to make sure that my mind had a good grasp on what was going on here, because it looked pretty complicated when I first started manipulating the can. So back to the manual, very well written. Comes in the very nice heavy stock paper here that looks like it's pretty resistant to oil and grease. That's gonna be good when you have this thing in your garage and it's all dirty from cleaning your cans. So very, very detailed indeed. Thank you, Microtech. Underneath you have extra O-rings. You have a master, should I say, takedown tool, okay? And you can use this for 2 different jobs on the front and the rear. More on that in a minute. And then we have a pusher rod, which we will cover later on in the video. This thing is actually pretty cool. Glad I read the manual on that one, so I use it right. And that's how it's set up. All right, now as far as the specifications, I'm gonna give you 2 sets of numbers here, guys. 1, where the suppressor set up in its K configuration, and 2, when it's set up in the full length. So as far as K, the overall length and K configuration is 6.47 inches with a weight of 9 ounces, okay? And then when you add on the module, the overall length comes in at 8.63 inches with a total weight of 11.5 ounces. Now your diameter, of course, is going to maintain the same, and that is 1.375 inches. Now as far as the materials, This is all 100% titanium. Everything, the whole can. So that makes my job pretty easy. I don't have to sit here and explain 5 different materials. So thank you again, Microtech, for building your suppressor completely out of titanium. As far as your rating, this is rated for full auto 9mm with plus P ammo and normal rate of fire with subsonic 300 blackout. Now I don't have a piston with a, that I would use with a fixed spacer to run this on a 300 blackout gun. I don't have it, so today we'll only be using it on 9mm hosts. But pretty cool that you could still use it on 300 blackout. I'm sure it sounds pretty sweet. Now, as far as the finish, this is the apocalyptic, or as I like to call it, the raw finish. So you're getting like a nice, looks like a large blasted look of raw titanium. So it's kind of cool. I'll show some close-ups here, but you can kind of see how it has like a marble looking effect to it from where the media was impacting the tube. Looks really cool. It's actually going to wear very well. You're not going to notice a ton of wear on this can. It's going to wear very well. They also have black and coyote tan. I would actually, for this one, I would actually recommend sticking with the raw titanium look because it's just going to wear good and it's going to look good on stainless steel guns and black guns alike. Now, as far as servicing the R2K9, they would like you to service it every 300 rounds if possible. I would say that's a pretty fair estimation of a pretty long range outing. I don't typically shoot 300 rounds of 9mm out of one suppressor on any range outing. Your mileage may vary, but I'd say that's on the high side. After 300 rounds, they recommend taking it apart to clean it, which we are going to cover. Before we get there, let's cover some decibel reading reductions. We're going to cover K length, dry and wet, and then full length, dry and wet. So starting with the K, dry, it had a reduction of 31.57 decibels. And then wet, it had a reduction of 40.72 decibels from the unsuppressed readings. And then when they added the full length, it had a reduction in the dry of 35.06 decibels. And then when they added 5 cc's of water to shoot it wet, it had a reduction of 36.87. Now I'll throw those numbers up on the screen so you guys can read them as I'm explaining the phenomenon of firearm suppression. So I noticed a couple of things when going through their published data on the metering day. Now, by the way, this was metered by them and a third party. The same gun, same ammo, same lot. It was 147 grain, full metal jacket, subsonics. So everything was standard that day. And you notice they gained a drop, should I say, of 4 decibels when they added the front module dry. But it performed better wet in the K configuration than it did with the module added by 4 decibels. So that was kind of unusual. And it just goes to show you just never know what's going to happen until you start messing with the fluid dynamics and the way it exchanges heat and slows down the gases in the can. Anytime you add water and shoot it wet, it's going to act much differently. So pretty interesting. 40 decibel reduction in the K configuration wet is very, very impressive. I mean, even dry, 31 decibels is great. 35 is perfect with the module on it. So pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how this sounds in person as far as the tone when we're shooting. As you know, that's what I care more about because the tone is going to dictate how long I shoot a suppressor without ear protection on. If it's a lower tone, it's more pleasing to my ears, I'll shoot it longer than a higher, snappier pitch would sound. So how much does all this cost so far? They just lowered, yes, they lowered their retail price on this can. If you look at some older published articles on the suppressor, it was around $1,400, $1,500. It is now $1,199, so $1,200 for this whole system. Now, let's go ahead and cover how to field strip it, and I do mean field strip because they definitely thought ahead here on how to take this apart. Because again, remember, this was developed for the military and then given to us to play with. So they had to make sure that the suppressor can be totally taken down in the field without the need for a secondary takedown tool. Now, while this does make it easier to take down, you don't need it. It's just to make it easier to clean at home. So let's go ahead and cover this. Again, I'm glad I I took a dive at this for a couple hours before I got started here in my home studio, so I don't look like a complete fool trying to show you guys this. So let's try to streamline this as quick as, or as clean as I can. So the end cap on the front and the piston retaining cap can be put together and used as a tool to take all the different parts of this apart. Okay, so what I mean by that is to go ahead and remove the piston retaining ring on the back. You can use the inside of the front cap. So you take the front cap off first and then put it on the back. As you can see, it interlocks, and I can unscrew the retaining ring, or should I say the end cap, around the piston. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Of course, you could also use your larger and heavy and bulky takedown tool. Okay, it does the same thing, has the same cut in it. Again, you're not going to carry that around in the field. So let's go ahead and start there. So you'll use that and remove, butterfingers. You'll remove the piston retaining cap there. There you go. And you'll see it pop up under tension. So you have your piston retaining cap or ring, whatever they call it. You have your spring for the piston, and then your actual piston. So we'll set this aside. Don't need that. Now, remember I said this is retained. So if you turn this around, nothing's going to fall out, which is nice. And they do this because in the field, should something happen to your end cap or whatever, you can actually fire it like this without the end cap on. Now the end cap does lower reduction even more. As you can see, it will trap gas in there, and it has a little inside profile with a notch on it like a baffle itself. So now to take apart that retaining ring, again, you could use your dedicated takedown tool, put it in the front, and back out that retaining system. Or, this is cool. This is really cool, actually. You take the rear piston area, okay, the cap that was on the rear holding the piston and spring, and it has the same cut, of course, that you use to take it apart. It interlocks with your front cap, and now you have a two-piece tool that you can put in there, and it locks in and engages the machining on the retaining cap for your baffle stack. How freaking cool is that you can freaking transform this thing and take it apart in the field? That is really cool. That is the retaining cap. Very, very thin. I'll throw some close-ups here. I want to show you the engagement between the O-ring relief cut on this and the first piston. So I'm going to go ahead and slide these out. So just turn it over on your table, slide it out, and your piston, or your, I keep saying piston, your baffle stack will come out. Now, all of these are the same, save for the front one. So the one that interfaces with the retaining cap is going to be a shorter baffle, and that goes for the front module as well. So you're going to have the same part in there with the same smaller baffle with the O-ring built in. So let me go ahead and take these apart. Again, I took some B-roll already, so I'll show you guys here on the screen little close-ups of what we're looking at here. Now, pretty interesting design on these. So this is obviously a highly modified K-baffle. So it has a traditional, venting you would have on a K-baffle, but then it has a really, really crazy looking face on it that will redirect the gases. And this uses a 180 design, meaning when you reassemble it, your hole on either side will be flipped and reoriented, so it's 180 degrees from the baffle you just lined up. And what they did, and I'll show another close-up here, is they actually machined larger and smaller notches in the rear of every bell on the K-baffle, so you cannot put this together wrong. It will not let you put it together until you lock it in properly, which is really, really cool. So basically, as far as cleaning, you're going to remove them all. Let me go ahead and use the at-home takedown tool to show you how that works with the front module. And we'll take that other retaining cap out, the baffle retaining cap. So that's out. So you can see how this kind of just sits on there like that. Pretty cool. So we'll set that aside. And again, now we'll just push right out. You have that shorter baffle that was near the front with the O-ring on it to engage that cap. And then you have your first baffle. So it looks like we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you got 5 baffles in the main K tube, and then you have 2 baffles in the front module. So you have 2 short ones and then 5 full-size baffles in the suppressor. So pretty cool, 100% titanium, so you can, by their instructions, throw this in a 50-50 cleaning solution of water and cleaner and a ultrasonic cleaner for up to an hour to get all the gunk off. As far as the tube, they recommend just a copper brush or a scraper rod to get all the large chunks out. You shouldn't have many problems. Now, another cool feature of this kit, should you shoot this over their recommended 300 round interval and you kind of got lazy like I do, I don't clean anything, you could use their included push rod to get it out. So this comes in 2 pieces in the case. You would just thread it together like so. Now you have your impact in, okay, this is what you're going to push on, and then you have this front section that actually interlocks with the face of the first baffle that will be in there that you're going to be driving this against. It actually locks in and will only let you do it a certain way. And it uses a guide to make sure you put it in straight. How cool is that? So to do it, I'm going to kind of just simulate it here. You put your piston retaining cap back on with no piston in it, okay? And then you take the guide that was around that rod and you just snap it in past that O-ring, and now you got the guide in there. And then you could, you know, hit it on the counter, hit it with a mallet. It says just normal palm pressure should drive it out of the suppressor. All your baffles will fall out and you can pull it out. Now, you're probably not going to need to use this often, but let me tell you, I have a old AAC Tyrant 9 here. Yeah, I haven't cleaned that in a while. I actually, for some reason, had a hair up my butt the other day, and I started cleaning a lot of my guns and cans that I've neglected, and I could not get that sucker apart. Those baffles are locked in there, and the fact that this exists for that reason for this can shows that they're really thinking about the end user here, whether they be in the military, back at base to cleaning their stuff, or an armor, or you at home tearing your hair out on your bench in your garage because you can't get your baffles out. So I thought that was really, really cool of them to include. Let me throw it down here so it doesn't fall over, in the suppressor. So hopefully you guys kind of understand what I was getting at there. Now, as far as reassembly, again, you can only put these back a certain way. And you're basically just flip-flop this machining here. You see this tall machining here. You're just gonna rotate it the other way. So you'll just put it on like that and it'll snap in. So it's pretty foolproof. So what you're gonna wanna do to reassemble, I found out it's best to lay that smaller short baffle down first, because that's gonna be the end of the stack, okay? And the O-ring actually helps it not slide on the hard surface you're using. So then you'll take the baffles and you'll see this higher shelf here, this machining area, and you're just gonna orient it 180 degrees from the other one you're looking at, and it'll fall into place nicely. So as you'll see here, it just falls right in. If you go to put it on the wrong way, again, the smaller relief cuts here are gonna engage on the larger tabs here, and it's not gonna let it work. So just, you know, look at it and then rotate it until it falls into place, and you're good to go. Okay, once you have the stack assembled, you'll notice that there are 3 holes on one side and 2 on the other because of the 180-degree baffle orientation. Now, they say in the manual they want you to line up the 3 holes with the writing on the tube, and that's going to correspond with a notch on the inside, the same notch machining type that these baffles align with. There's notches cut on the inside. Now, the reason they want you to line those holes with the writing is so your clockability of your point of impact tuning is repeatable after you clean the suppressor. You know, if you didn't have those notches to hold the stack, when you thread this on and you torque that stack on cans that don't have those tabs, the whole baffle stack will turn, okay? So if you're used to having this tuned for your specific host that you're shooting on, for your point of impact shift, it's not gonna be the same every time. With this one, it will. And I'll show you how to clock it when we hit the range if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. So we have 3 holes on this side. We'll line it up with the writing like they said. And then just kind of, I just use my finger and I kind of jiggle it in there and you'll see it engage. I'll show you a close-up here of me sliding it in and you'll see it lock into place. Then and only then can you put in your retaining ring. If you don't feel it click in and lock, it's not going to be set deep enough and you're not going to be able to get the front cap on properly. So make sure you feel it click in. You'll see the O-ring there. Make sure that's lubed up with oil so it doesn't tear when you torque this down. I'm just going to use the at-home takedown tool for ease of filming here. Go ahead and thread on that retaining cap inside for the baffles. You don't need to get it crazy, just snug it down, nothing crazy. And then we can assemble the front module. So you'll see the hole here on the shorter baffle. They want you to line that up with the secondary serial number marking on this. And that is so when everything's clocked up and lined up, you still have the 180-degree orientation all the way through, even with the module on it. So now we'll slide that on. And again, use your finger, and you'll feel it snap into place. And you can actually visualize it falling into those machine cuts. Once that's lined up, you can throw on your retaining cap again. You can throw this on either way. It has the relief cut for the O-ring on both sides. Put that on carefully so you don't cross-thread anything. I usually back up the threads a little bit and then seat it so we don't have any possibility of a cross thread. And again, you don't need to use this tool in the field. You can put your piston retaining cap in the end of your front cap and you can make the same tool, which is pretty cool. But for ease of filming here in the studio, we'll just use that one. So now you could either A, put it in the K configuration by throwing the front cap back on, or we can do the long full-size configuration by throwing the front module on and then the cap. And you're going to get the maximum suppression possible in the dry. But if you were shooting wet, as you remember earlier, just move that front cap onto the K housing and you'll have a reduction of 40 decibels, almost 41 decibels when shot wet, so, which is pretty cool. As far as continuing to assemble it, now is when you would choose if you're going to shoot it on a fixed barrel or a pistol or, you know, right hand thread, left hand thread. So right now we have, where is our, for our Glocks, got pistons everywhere here. So this is 1/2x28 with the spring. Drop that bad boy in there and you'll see all the teeth on here that orient with the cuts in the rear of the blast chamber. That is going to allow you to clock this suppressor in case you have point of impact shift. What in the, oh. I was like, why isn't this going on? It's because the guide for the push rod was still inset in my cap here. So now, this part, you need to be careful, okay? Because this is under tension here with the spring, and you don't want to cross-thread. Because if you're going to cross-thread anything, this is where it's going to happen. So just try to keep a nice, even, steady pressure. I push it in, back the threads up a little bit, and then try to seat it. And there, once it grabs, you're good to go. And then just screw it on like normal. You see how the tool kind of slides off because the machining's shallow? Another reason why I recommend the raw apocalyptic finish here, because you're not going to really add any other scratches that you can see with your eye, so the can's going to maintain a good look. So now this suppressor is set up with 1/2x28 piston with the spring in it. So this is used for, like, say, a Glock 19 with a 1/2x28 barrel on it. I think that pretty much covers it in the studio. Hopefully I didn't miss anything today. Cliff notes here: full titanium suppressor, super quiet in the dry and wet, fully modular, and you can take it apart fully in the field by using components that are already on the can. So that's pretty cool. So let's grab some hosts, grab some ammo, hit the range, and see just how it performs. Dude. I can actually hear the rounds whizzing in the air downrange. Dude, holy crap. Whoa. Whoa. That was I saw the reflection of the jacket of the bullet in the sunlight. I could see the bullet fly. It flew like 30 feet, landed in the grass. So that was an underpowered load. Try that again. There we go. Let me load up another mag for you guys. Do that again. Much better. Damn, this thing's awesome. Yeah! Alright, we have it in the K configuration shot dry, and we're going to do something a little different today. I brought 4 different types of ammo, so we're going to shoot the top 5 is going to be 115 grain Federal Supersonic. The next 5 will be 124 grain Federal Supersonic, followed by 147 grain Subsonic Hush, and then 165 grain Subsonic Hush. So everything's going to get quieter as we go. And of course, I'm going to run it full auto. I'm going to shoot it straight so you don't hear any changes between the end of the muzzle of the gun and the ejection port. That was actually pretty cool. Well everyone, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed today's video. I know that it was a lot longer than my reviews usually are, and that's because I really want to cover this suppressor in detail because there was a lot going on, and this takes a lot of work. I know this doesn't look like work because we're out here having fun, you know, shooting guns, but I spent 4 hours in the studio filming and collecting B-roll, and then another 4 hours editing just the studio part. I've been out here this morning for right at 4 hours, and I'll probably spend another 3 to 4 hours editing everything, polishing the video, getting my title work complete and uploading it. So you're talking 16 hours of work over 3 days spread out just to get this review out. And I gotta say, it was worth every minute. I legit came out here expecting this to be a lot louder than it is. It's not loud at all. I was so shocked, I stopped filming and I called my contact at Microtech and I was like, dude, you guys kept boasting about shooting this thing wet, and every time I hear that from a manufacturer, it tells me, okay, it's gonna be pretty loud and it's K configuration because I keep bringing up shooting it wet. Well, that was not the case. This does not need water at all, so I had to get that out of my mind. I asked them why they do that. Is because that was a military requirement, it had to be wet. And they actually designed it to actually hold a lot of water the whole time. So I actually only added water to this once. When I did the scenes with the 225, I added a little water, and then I put the front cap, the module on, and then I went to the USP short, USP long. I never added any more water. And then when we did the downrange stuff, I was like, I'm not gonna waste everybody's time shooting it wet because this can's quiet, it doesn't even need water. It's just gonna make a mess. So I shot those scenes dry. I'll say this too, I have not cleaned my glasses the entire day, and you'll notice there is no splashback on there. That is impressive in itself shooting dry. I was not getting any of that peppering, like the Suppressor Octane 9 does. I wasn't getting any of that to the face, no discomfort, nothing. And then when I shot it wet, I was like, all right, about to take a shower this morning. And again, nothing, no blowback, no port pop. And that brings me to my next topic, is why I chose the 225 this morning instead of like a Glock 19. Well, I did choose a Glock 19, it kept jamming because it's a Gen 3 that has extractor issues. Long story, that gun sucks. But I've been doing this long enough to bring a plethora of hosts out. So I said, why don't I do the 225 and an HK USP 9 SD? That way I get a short and a long barrel so we can hear the differences. And I gotta tell you, this setup here, I forget which one this is. It's a 225 Tactical maybe. I bought it a couple years ago. It has like a Legion color scheme on it. But it has tall sights on it already. This thing with the full titanium can on it balances so well and feels so good in the hand. I'm really glad that we shot this today because this gun definitely doesn't get out of the safe enough as it is. So, other things I want to talk about. The knurling on this was awesome to work with all day. Because remember, when I'm out here filming, I got one suppressor. I got to do short, long, wet, dry, different hosts, move the pistons around. It made it really easy for me to just grab this thing while it's on the gun, slide open, take the front cap off, put the module on, slide the other cap on. It made things really quick and efficient. I could tell that under blood, sweat, and tears, nothing is going to slip on this can. You can manhandle this thing, and it's going to feel really, really good in the hands. As far as suppression, sounded amazing on the MP5, of course, delayed roller blowback. And, the SIG sounded amazing. The USP, I'm still kind of in shock here talking to you guys because I really expected less out of the suppression, especially since this is Microtech's first try. And that's something that came up in conversation again, is they spent 3 years R&Ding baffle types, links, tone, decibel ratings, wet, dry, long, short. So yeah, they weren't bullshitting. They definitely put their time on the R&D in this, because this thing is CGS Group Mod 9 quiet in the shorter configuration. I didn't even hear much change adding the module on. Honestly, I don't even think you need it. This thing's gonna probably live on this setup in my safe, which is saying a lot. When I was on the phone with them, I said, hurry the hell up and make a 3-lug for this sucker so I can shoot this on the MP5 without having to do the fixed barrel spacer and threading it on. That was annoying. One more con would be, I noticed moving the module around and the front cap when I was shooting it dry and wet. You could see like gunk, not building up, but you got water in the threads. So this is something you're definitely going to want to pay attention to as far as your cleaning interval. You're going to want to take this apart when you get home. Don't leave that water and gunk in here. You don't want any corrosion. As far as accuracy, I didn't notice any degradation of accuracy. I didn't notice any point of impact shift, but I mentioned in the studio, I'll show you how to do it. So if you are noticing some sort of point of impact shift, say you put the suppressor on and you were shooting center and now you're shooting down and right, you would just simply pull the suppressor forward to compress that spring and rotate the can, let go. And what it's doing is you have the piston, right, side, and the blast chamber side, and those teeth interlock like this. So when you compress that spring back, you're letting them uncouple, rotate it, and you'll go to the next clock position. That's all you're doing. So you probably have 12 or so positions, and you can just shoot a couple rounds, pull, rotate, pull, rotate, and then you'll know per host you have it on where that writing needs to be. On this one, it just so happened to be, it was shooting perfect with the writing on the right side of the gun lined up with the ejection port. So this can is accurate, ungodly quiet, and looks cool as hell. And it's made of 100% titanium, which did not throw the balance off. Now, as far as the tone, this is a contender with the CGS Group Mod 9, and that is saying a lot because the CGS Group Mod 9 is like king of the hill, okay, as far as sound and tone goes. And tone is very important. Tone is gonna dictate whether or not you're gonna shoot it all day without ears on, because it's not annoying, okay? This thing had a very, very pleasing tone to it. And I go to great lengths to make sure I can replicate that for you guys at home. What I mean by that is, right now I'm talking to you on a lapel microphone. When I record, I use something else. And, you know, matter of fact, I have a full mag here with 165 grains. You tell me if this sounds different than what you heard earlier in the video. Going to sound a lot different than the recordings you heard earlier, and that's why I really strive to drive the point home to you guys to watch these videos with high quality headphones so it replicates it as clear as it can be, so you get that full spectrum and color of sound at home when you're watching these videos. I think that pretty much covers it. I know this video is long, guys. It's like a whole episode. I'm sure we're over the half-an-hour mark by now, easily, probably into 40 minutes. Probably my longest video I have ever filmed, but the R2K9 deserves it. And as far as my patrons on Patreon, I am trying to get something lined up for you guys. Since you can buy this direct from Microtech, I'm trying to get a discount for my gold members. If you want to check out the other discounts we have, I think we have over 12 discounts from various companies, including Gun Trader Den. You guys get cost on guns and suppressors through them. If you don't live in Florida, they can ship it to your local dealer, so check that out at this link below. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you stay tuned. We have a lot of cool videos planned for 2021 and some cool gold member only gear coming your way. See you next time.